Welcome into the On3 Studios here in Nashville, Tennessee. It is Sunday, June 16th. Today is Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all those who participate. All right, it's a loaded show today. We're in the middle of visit season, a lot of moving pieces on the board. We're going to talk about it all. I'm excited to be here talking recruiting with you guys once again on the Inside Scoop. Before we get going, make sure you guys are subscribed to the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. Hit subscribe for me, please. All right. Thank you guys for being here. Today's show, we're going to talk some Alabama recruiting. We're going to talk some Texas recruiting. We're going to go to Steve Wiltfong, get some five-star intel. But first, let's take a look at some of the biggest commitments of the weekend. Now, of course, guys are coming off the board left and right. This is as of the taping of the show on Sunday evening, so there could be more, but here's a look. We got Quincy Porter coming off the board to Ohio State. He's a four-star wide receiver. Isaiah West. Ohio State adds two commitments so far this weekend. So does Michigan. Notice they're keeping pace. Kanoa Winston, top 100 prospect. And then another safety coming off the board, Eric Winters. Now, he was on a visit to Auburn this weekend. Kind of rare to see a commitment on a visit, but that's what Eric Winters does. Seemed like Auburn had been trending, but he had been taking visits all over the place. Also notable, Keoti Armstrong to Texas A&M. He's one of the top tight ends available on the board. 2026 tight end Ryder Mix to Oklahoma, and Keandre Johnson, a three-star edge to Arkansas. All right, we'll get more into Texas and Alabama here in a few minutes, but right now I got a chance to talk with national recruiting analyst Steve Wiltfong. It was a massive visit weekend, Steve, and we're going to do like a mini whip around here. I know we do the whip around on Monday, but let's do it, you and I, and we'll start with five-star quarterback Julian Lewis. This was his Auburn visit weekend, coming off that trip to USC. What are you hearing on Julian Lewis coming out of this Auburn official visit?
Ton of confidence around the Plains on where they're positioned with the Carrollton five-star passer, who was also on campus recently for their high school team 7-on-7 competition. Julian Lewis and his teammates won that. He took a couple visits in the spring. Now he's here for his official visit. This is the guy that Auburn has made the focal point of this class as they try and finish with the second straight top 10 class. Julian Lewis loves the way that they recruited the wide receiver position so far under Hugh Freeze and company. They love the trajectory of the program, love the offense. Proximity from home is good. And there's a lot of confidence around Auburn right now following this visit as as he comes down the home stretch of his recruitment here.
Yeah, and it's not done. We got Colorado up next, so still a little bit left for Julian Lewis when it comes to visit season. All right, let's head down to Coral Gables where DJ Pickett, who we know he's been leaning toward LSU, maybe Oregon, maybe Georgia, but this weekend it was the in-state Miami Hurricanes hosting the five-star corner out of Zephyr Hills, Florida. What are you hearing on DJ Pickett?
Well, Miami felt like home for DJ Pickett and his family this weekend. Of course, his uncle played there. His cousin plays there now. They love the vision that Mario Cristobal and his staff have for this program. They believe in him as an alumni to get Miami on the right track. There's certainly no program recruiting him harder right now than Miami. He's not committing till October. He could be back at Miami in late July for Miami's big summer recruiting event. He's going to be at Miami season opener at Florida. So he's definitely going to see the Hurricanes a couple more times as he continues through his process. And if Miami gets out of the season hot, has a great first month, they could be tough to beat for DJ Pickett. We've talked a lot about LSU. He's at Oregon next weekend. Georgia moved the needle with an official. Florida's getting that official visit. If they have a great year, kind of similar to Miami, maybe watch out for Florida. But if all the stars align, if Miami plays well, I think still they'll be tough to beat in the end for DJ Pickett.
All right, now let's head to Knoxville where David Sanders was on campus, the number one offensive tackle. Now, Tennessee made a valiant run at number one offensive tackle Jordan Seaton last cycle, but came up just short. David Sanders on campus this weekend. What are we hearing?
Well, Tennessee had a ton of top prospects on campus this weekend. I think David Sanders and the family still left campus feeling like a major priority. I think he likes being around Tennessee's guys, not only quarterback commit George McIntyre and the players committed in the class, but Tennessee's players. I think Glenn Ellerbe, what he was able to do with Darnell Wright, I think that stadium atmosphere, there's a lot of things Tennessee has going for them in this recruitment. I still have them as one of three teams to watch closely with Georgia and Ohio State. He's at Ohio State next weekend. Georgia got the official visit earlier this month. But Tennessee, he could certainly end up playing his college football for the Checkered Orange. It was another good official visit weekend. He's been there 4 times this calendar year now. I think every time Tennessee makes all the right moves when he's on campus.
All right, a couple flip targets on campus as well in Knoxville. We'll start with linebacker Jordan Perlotti, number 14 ranked linebacker in America. Now, he committed to Georgia all the way back in December of 2022, but he hasn't completely shut this recruitment down. Do you think Tennessee has a shot at flipping him?
Yeah, absolutely. He's expected back at Georgia next weekend, but he's been on flip watch for quite some time. At first, it was Florida State. There's been a lot of Auburn smoke around this recruitment. But coming out of this Tennessee visit, talking to some folks that spent some time with him, and then also if you read Chad Simmons' report on our Tennessee On 3 site as well, there is some really good positive buzz about Tennessee right now for Jaden Perlotti.
All right, now edge Isaiah Gibson. He's committed to USC, but he took a visit to UGA last weekend. This weekend, he was in Knoxville. What are you hearing on Isaiah Gibson's visit to Tennessee?
Well, I think that people that spent time with him in Knoxville feel like they are going to be in this one for the long haul as well. I have an RPM on Georgia to ultimately flip Isaiah Gibson, but you certainly can't ignore Tennessee and what they bring to the table here too. Their infrastructure is airtight here for this one. I think that Tennessee has made an impression on Isaiah Gibson this weekend, like they did David Sanders, like they did Jaden Perlotti. If you're asking me today where I think he would still end up, I still would go Georgia, but definitely not sleeping on the Vols, especially after this weekend.
All right, let's head down to Gainesville. I know your phone's buzzing, get you out of here in a minute, but let's head down to Gainesville where we're talking wide receiver Vernell Brown. This recruitment has really started to heat up. We know he's going to make a decision most likely in July. What are you hearing about his time in Gainesville, though?
Well, it was a fantastic visit. He took 2 officials this week, Josh. He was also at Miami for a midweek. And I talked to someone who spent time with Vernell on that visit, and it sounds like that went really well. And Vernell and his dad echoed the same. Now he was at Florida. He's a Florida legacy. His dad played there. Grandfather played there. And he talked to me about the plans they have for the program, the improvements they've made in Billy Napier and this coaching staff's time there. It continues to keep him interested, he said. And he likes the way they're doing it. He likes the culture they're putting in place. He thinks the program is overall better. He looks forward to seeing what they do on the field this year. Florida's definitely one of the front runners for Vernell Brown as they battle Miami, Florida State, and Ohio State. Vernell Brown the third.
Who would you put in that 2 spot? I think that's the biggest question. If we feel good about where UF sits, maybe in leading right now, who's in the 2 spot?
Well, I know he's coming off a great visit to Miami, but Florida State is still a program that I think has a lot going for themselves. It seemed like they were in the top 2 when he was at the On 3 Elite Series with us a couple weeks ago in Nashville. He's got that official visit coming up to Tallahassee to end the month of June. So if you're asking me who I think's number 2, it's Florida State. But I think that there's a roadmap for all 3 in-state schools right now. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, and Ohio State definitely heavily involved in that one as well. Let's move on to in-state target, Hilton Stubbs. Now, he's from Mandarin High School in Jacksonville, but he made an early commitment to the USC Trojans. That hasn't stopped Stubbs from taking visits. This weekend, he was in Gainesville. What do you think of Stubbs and the Gators recruitment right now?
Oh, man, Florida's definitely one to watch. If they have the season that they're planning to have, they're going to be in the thick of it for a lot of these top targets that are keeping Florida warm right now. Hilton Stubbs said my official visit to Florida this weekend was fantastic. The coaches made it clear that they are determined to keep pushing for me, and it's far from over. Their commitment really impressed me, he said, and this visit only strengthened his interest in Florida. He's excited about the opportunity with the Gators because of the strong support and great connection that he has with the coaching staff. I think he just wants to see what they look like on the field. He had a great visit to USC where he's committed earlier this month. Miami's also in that one. Hilton Stubbs is one that we'll be tracking all the way up to the early signing period.
All right, Steve, thank you for dropping by and hitting the highlights today from the big weekend on the Inside Scoop. You and I, we're going to sit down tomorrow on the Wiltfong Whip Around as we do every Monday and Thursday right here on this channel, and we're going to get even deeper into the intel from the weekend. Steve, appreciate you dropping by today.
Yep, happy Father's Day to everyone. See you tomorrow.
See you, bud. Alabama hosted their third official visit weekend of the summer, and it was another big one. Today, I want to find out if the Tide turned the momentum of Justin Hill's recruitment back in their favor. Also, Ole Miss running back Keelan Deere, he seemed to really enjoy his visit over the weekend. Is a flip coming? Also, Bama offensive line recruiting has been hot, and this weekend one of their top targets was on campus from California. Will they seal the deal? I don't know. That's why I'm bringing in Bama recruiting expert Andrew Bone for this video. We're going to break it all down. But first, Bama fans, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We are covering Bama recruiting all season long, so go ahead, jump on board, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. All right. Bring on Andrew Bone of Bama Online, and we'll start Justin Hill, the number 6 edge, and he's out of Cincinnati. This is an interesting recruitment because early on in the spring, he was trending towards Alabama. Then he takes his official visit to Ohio State, and then he's trending to Ohio State. But this weekend, back in Tuscaloosa, what did you hear coming out of this trip?
Well, you always hear good things after most official visits. Yeah. Most of those recruits don't have bad officials. They're always going to have a good time. So every school is usually trending after the weekend. So you have to kind of let the dust settle a little bit and then take it from there. But we heard a lot of positive things about Justin's visit. His mom did a great interview with us at BamaOnline.com. I think that if it was up to her, the decision may have already been made. She's a huge Alabama fan. Loved Alabama her entire life, and this is a recruitment that's going to come down, in my opinion, to Alabama and Ohio State. I think Alabama certainly picked up some good momentum this weekend with them, but he is going to still take some visits, and he's got a trip to Oregon this upcoming weekend, and then making a decision on July the 3rd. But Alabama's done a great job here, relationship with the coaching staff. I think he's got a really good relationship with players on the team. Obviously, being in Ohio State is certainly pressing hard to get him on board, but he's certainly one of Alabama's, not only one of their top defensive guys, but one of their top overall targets on this recruiting board. They're recruiting him at that Wolf position, and they would certainly love to add him. So I think things went really well during the visit, and it's going to come down to the wire.
All right. Now, there was a bunch of visitors on campus over the weekend. You guys can go to BamaOnline.com. They do a phenomenal job of covering all things Bama football and recruiting. But I just want to talk about a couple guys. And the next one I want to talk about is Keelan Deere, the number 2 running back out of the state of Mississippi. He's committed to Ole Miss. It looks like, okay, he committed to the in-state team. This one's done. Not so fast. He was on campus in Tuscaloosa this weekend, and he had some freshmen in his ear, mainly Daniel Hill. That one stuck out to me. He's also a running back from the state of Mississippi that Alabama beat Ole Miss for last cycle. So that being said, Keelan Deere, is he, I wouldn't say flip watch here, but did Bama make some headway in doing so?
I think Alabama's certainly heavily involved there. And I don't think a decision is going to happen anytime soon as far as if he's going to flip. I think he is going to take some more visits. I think he's got a trip out to Texas A&M this upcoming weekend. And he's an in-state kid for the Rebels. I mean, that's going to be a tough flip for anybody. But he's visited Alabama several times. He visited Tuscaloosa actually about a week before he announced his commitment to Ole Miss back in the spring. So Alabama has been in that race for a long time, and a lot of that credit has to go to Robert Gillespie, the running backs coach, who was on the previous staff and who has recruited A.K. Deere for a very long time. He was actually one of 2 running backs who were committed elsewhere that were in Tuscaloosa this past week. And Harry Dalton, who's a USC commitment, was also in town. And they really like those 2 guys a lot. They're bigger backs. They have one running back committed in Anthony Rogers, who's been committed this last summer. I think they want to get a little bit more size with this next running back commitment. So A.K. Deere, Harry Dalton, 2 of the guys that they're really pressing hard for, along with a few others, including Jordan Davidson out at Mater Dei, who remains high on their recruiting board as well.
Yeah, speaking of California, one of Alabama's top offensive line targets, offensive tackle Jackson Lloyd, he was in from Cali, and this was his official visit to Alabama. Is this one, because they had a lot of success with offensive linemen coming out of the last weekend, is this one that Alabama could lock down relatively soon?
I think so. Jackson Lloyd is the player that Alabama first offered when Coach DeBoer joined the Alabama coaching staff back in January. I think it was about 2 days later after Coach DeBoer arrived that he offered Jackson Lloyd, and Jackson visited Tuscaloosa less than 2 weeks later. Now he's visited 3 times. Alabama has a lot of momentum there. They've loved this kid really since day one. He's 6'6", 295 pounds. Didn't really get a chance to go out and see a lot of schools during the spring. He's a basketball and baseball player, so that pretty much occupied all of his time. Now, he did take an unofficial visit to Ohio State in May, returned to Columbus for the official visit last weekend. There was a lot of buzz on Ohio State after that weekend, but we knew that if he could get out of there not committed, back to Tuscaloosa, things were going to really move well in Alabama's direction, and we believe they certainly have. We've logged predictions in favor of Alabama at Bama Online for Jackson Lloyd to the Crimson Tide. Now, he does have an official visit currently set for USC this upcoming weekend, but really wouldn't surprise us if a decision happened before then. We really like where Alabama stands with Jackson Lloyd as one of their premier offensive line targets in this recruiting class.
Yeah, and it's good to hear for Bama fans because I know that Ohio State visit either last weekend or the weekend before kind of was weighed really well with him, but we'll see what happens. It could be another offensive line commit during the week, kind of similar to last week coming out of those official visits. Now, let's talk about one recruit who was not on campus this weekend, but he will be tomorrow. That's 5-star wide receiver Khalil Lockett out of the state of Texas. I wanted to know, he's from Saxe, Texas, but Keelan Russell, who Alabama flipped from SMU, is also a Texas native. And is there any connection between the Keelan Russell flip and then Khalil Lockett just setting up this official visit about 5-6 days later?
Yeah, both of them have actually told us that there has been communication that Keelan started recruiting Khalil pretty much immediately after he flipped his commitment from SMU to Alabama, and that's kind of where the interest starts. We know that Alabama has been recruiting Khalil since January. Jamarcus Shepard, Alabama's wide receivers coach, actually went out there to see him in January. There was communication throughout the year. This was never able to visit, and now he's able to take that official visit. We'll see if Alabama becomes a little bit more of a contender in this race. I would say they're on the outside looking in prior to the visit, but that's why you get kids on campus, kind of see where you're at and see how interested they might be in the program, because he's going to sit down with Coach Shep. He's going to sit down with Coach DeBoer, Coach Nick Sheridan, the offensive coordinator, and the rest of the staff, and realize – or I guess figure out exactly how Alabama intends to use him, and see if they can become a contender. But yeah, that's a big visit to be able to get him. Alabama's not recruiting a lot of wide receivers in this class. They already have one commitment in Latsier Brooks out of New Jersey. Still looking for at least one more, and they've got some big visits coming up this weekend with Khalil. You have Khalil on Monday through Wednesday, and then this upcoming weekend you have Derek Meadows out of Las Vegas, and also 5-star wide receiver Caleb Cunningham out of Mississippi.
Jeez, look at that. Bama fans, talk to me. How are we feeling about this weekend? Let me know, comment section below. Also, Khalil Lockett, the upcoming visits. What do you guys think? Bama recruiting getting hot at the right time. Andrew Bone, appreciate you for dropping by the Inside Scoop on a busy official visit weekend.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Josh.
A huge in-state weekend for the Texas Longhorns. We're going to head out to Austin, where the #1 wide receiver in America, Decorian Moore, spent his weekend. There was also some other big names. Let's get it started with Justin Wells from inside Texas. But first, Texas fans, do me a favor. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruit channel. We're here talking Horns recruiting all off-season long. Go ahead, jump on board, hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring on Justin Wells from inside Texas. Now, I want to get your thoughts on Decorian Moore, because heading in, we know he was trending to Texas, as everything's been trending in the Horns' way since he decommitted from LSU. But he took a photo over the weekend. Now, Trey, throw this photo up here, and it looks to me, I mean, you couldn't have more family members in here. This looks to me like possibly a commitment photo. I know it's probably not a commitment photo, but this looks like a commitment photo. What are we hearing about Decorian Moore's visit to Texas?
Well, as we record, Decorian is on a flight back home right now to Duncanville with his mother and family. It was a family affair. I'll say this. If there was a family reunion, everybody got invited because the Moores were running deep on the 40 acres Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I got to catch up with a little bit of the family during the weekend right before they left. I don't think Texas could have done any more. They couldn't have done it any bigger, any better.
Yeah.
They just laid it all out for Decorian. His host was Colin Simmons, who is one of his biggest recruiters, former teammate at Duncanville. But he didn't want just one host. He wanted to hang out with this freshman wide receiver named Ryan Wingo. And so Wingo co-hosted and took him around everywhere and even had dinner with the family last night. And I like that because, one, he knows Colin, but he can ask Ryan a lot of important questions, like, how did you make an impact as a freshman early enrollee? How did you do what you did? And to me, that's a big key. That's a big sign. Texas knocked us out of the park. I think Texas has had a commanding lead in this recruitment for the longest. I feel like they have only I wouldn't say clinched it, because Oregon's going to come with the big guns, but Texas did everything they possibly could to ensure DeCorian Moore that he is more than welcome on the 40 acres. He is more than a fit. He's got family in Austin. He's got teammates on the team. He will be catching passes from Arch Manning, Trey Owens, and potentially KJ Lacey. Everything lines up burnt orange for this kid. Like I said, he's still going to Oregon next weekend, Josh. But after that, I think we're going to see a decision relatively soon. I don't think this thing is going to stretch out. He had mentioned to us a couple months ago that it could go into August, right before the beginning of his senior year. After talking to his mother a couple days ago, I think this thing might actually happen sooner than later. I'm thinking sometime in July. Texas, they set the pace from the start, and I don't think there's going to be another official visit that matches it.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think it's going to be really hard to say no to Oregon. It's going to be really hard to say no to Ohio State for DeCorian Moore, but it just seems like things are lining up. How much is Arch Manning involved in this recruitment? Was he mentioned at all during the weekend? Inside Scoop viewers, listen up. Whether you're a seasoned gym goer or just starting your fitness journey, Fitbod is essential for your workout. It's a fitness app that customizes each workout based on your goals and adapts them as you improve. The app is great for me because I kind of go in my workouts in spurts, right? Sometimes I'm into it. Sometimes I'm not as into it as I probably should be. But the Fitbod app helps keep my consistency up. It makes my workouts more efficient. I actually spend less time in the gym now than I did before because I use the app. It's been great at keeping me focused, giving me a better workout each time. I also like how it keeps your, quote, gym streak updated, which keeps me motivated, holds me accountable. Most importantly, I never stand around in the gym looking dumb anymore, wondering what I should do next. Fitbod has it all figured out. Whether you work out in a fancy gym or you're at home in your garage, Fitbod can help you get better each workout. It's like a personal trainer, but better. It's cheaper and easier to use as a custom fitness plan that works for you. Add Fitbod to your workout essentials. Here's what we're going to do. Join Fitbod today. Get your personalized workout plan. Get 25% off your subscription or try the app for free at fitbod.me/inside scoop. That's fitbod.me/inside scoop.
Just a little bit. Arch. The biggest thing Arch did was quote tweet him on Instagram. Put out a thing because Arch knows who he wants to throw to. Arch is talking to these kids. He was big with the Ryan Wingo recruitment. And he's going to be helpful with DeCorian. I think he had late duty this weekend, and then I think he's going to be helping out with KJ Lacey next weekend. But Arch is involved simply because these are the guys he's going to throw to. He wants to get to know these guys. And from talking to some of these recruits before, Arch Manning doesn't pressure him. He just gets to know them. He thinks, okay, if this guy's going to be on campus, I got to have a relationship with him. Might as well set the foundation now. And Arch doesn't really push these kids. He just wants to build relationships with them. He wants to talk to them. And so he's involved, but I wouldn't say to a high degree. I think a lot of this is Coach Jackson, Stark, Chris Gilbert, Jeff Banks, Colin Simmons, and all the family that happen to be in Austin right down the road. I think those are the biggest factors.
All right. Now let's talk about borderline 5-star linebacker Riley Pettijohn. Could be a 5-star by the time this thing's over. Riley Pettijohn, he was on campus, and he's been trending to Texas, but he's been taking visits all over the place. What did you learn about Riley Pettijohn in Texas coming out of this one?
Yeah, he's been thorough. And understand his dad, Duke Pettijohn, played at Syracuse. And so he has an idea of the recruiting process and things that he's going through. I think Riley's just being thorough. I think Riley has wanted to go to Texas since spring. I think that they've been his number one choice for a long time. But he still wants to take these trips to make sure. He's getting great advice from his dad. They've got a great staff at McKinney. And I think another big factor is Elijah Barnes. from Skyline. He jumped in. He's the other linebacker in DFW that Texas is really high on, him and Pettijohn. Barnes already jumped in kind of out of nowhere. I think Riley's is going to be a little bit more timely. I think he would probably put out a date of when he wants to make an announcement, and I think this is going to be in July. I don't think this thing is going to drag into August. A lot of these players have been telling us, hey, August, right before the beginning of my senior year. And then you talk to them after taking 3 or 4 official visits, and all of a sudden it's, man, if I know what I know, I'm going to do this next month, or I'm going to do this in a couple weeks, or I'm about to do this pretty quick. I think Riley's in that area right now. And so I think Texas is still separating from the pack. I believe he's supposed to be at Texas A&M next weekend, but I also know that I don't think his mother is going with him. And if that's not a tell and a sign, I don't know what is.
All right. Now, Texas had 1 out of the 3 big 3 in Texas, because the big 3 in Texas consist of Lamont Rogers, Michael Fasusi, and Ty Haywood. And right now, it looks like Fasusi maybe a lean toward Texas, Ty Haywood maybe a lean toward OU or maybe even Alabama. But Lamont Rogers, he's leaning out of state towards Mizzou. After this visit, though, how do you feel about Texas and Lamont Rogers?
I feel the same, because I know you don't turn down a kid with his upside. I mean, he's a big 3, like you said, for a reason. Right. Huge athlete, so much upside. I think, though, there's some inconsistencies in his recruitment to where Texas is putting more, I wouldn't say more focus. They would take him, but if he does go to Missouri or if he does commit to Texas A&M, and I do think those are his top 2 schools, I don't think Texas is going to lose sleep. Lamont is a great prospect. But there are things in that recruitment where if they don't go all in, I'm not going to be surprised. There's just so many different things with Rogers' recruitment right now. Again, he's a surefire take on upside alone. But I think Texas is being very judicious with who they bring in for culture. And I love where they're at right now with offensive tackle out of San Francisco, John Mills, who just finished up his official visit. I think he's a take, and I think he's a guy that you could see jump in the boat relatively soon. So, and that would leave one more spot for Michael Fasusi, the bona fide 5-star offensive tackle out of Louisville. So I think it's still status quo with Rogers. Would they take him? I do believe so. Are they going to push to the brink? I don't believe that. I think Missouri and A&M are way more into that one than Texas.
Well, it's good to have options on that offensive line, and it sounds like Texas's O-line board is deep and talented. All right, this weekend, though, it was all about number 1 wide receiver DeCorian Moore. So Texas fans, let me know, comment section below, how we feeling about DeCorian Moore. Do you guys think – look at this picture. Look at this picture. Do you guys think he commit? I mean, this looks like a commitment photo. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know, comment section below. Well, you've made it to the end of today's video, but there's hundreds more videos on the On3 Recruits channel for you to check out. And also, while you're here, hit subscribe.